Three, two, one. Here we go. Hello and good morning. I am Dave Mamano. Welcome to the Gonzo Experience. I should say I'm David Gonzo Mamano, your host. Coming out a new episode every Wednesday morning for almost 6 years. Thank you for listening, watching, liking, subscribing, all that good stuff. Truly appreciate you, the Gonzo family. The show would be nothing without you tuning in every week. We are actually in the top 25% of all podcasts in the world right now, as far as the amount of downloads. I think, entrepreneurial lesson here, it goes to the compound effect of doing an episode every Wednesday morning for almost 6 years. Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours of practice. So I don't know how many hours I have, but I'm getting there. Anyway, I digress. I want to get to a really special guest today. He's one of the guys that when you meet him, you instantly, become like a brother to him. Such a warm, loving, kind person. I'm sure. I think I feel special, but I'm sure that everyone that meets him, he makes him feel the same way. But Rudi Riekstins, welcome to the Gonzo Experience.
First and foremost, thank you so much for having me on your platform. It's an incredible honor and a privilege. You are special. It's not to make you feel special, but I will put a caveat in there. I do believe everybody is special. And so we all deserve to feel that way. And I'm glad that I'm doing what I'm intending to do. David, you're an incredible person. Thank you so much for having me out here today.
Right back at you. Well, my mother thinks I'm special too. So there's at least two of you now. So I appreciate the both of you. So Rudi, we met through Gen Z, as I call her, Jen Jaworski, who was on my podcast a few weeks, maybe a couple of months ago now. So Jennifer, thank you. I always want to call out the people that introduce to my guest and make new friends. So Jennifer, thank you for that. So Rudi, we have had some great conversations. I've got to know you more and more. You spoke to our networking group, the Utopia Network. So thank you for that. I got to know your story and I wanted to have you in my podcast because first of all, your story of from childhood to how you got to what you're doing today is it's I'm going to say it's captivating. Right. It's not your typical, like everything was great. And then I just took it to the next level story. I mean, you look at you, if you're watching this, Rudi he's a great looking, vibrant looking, athletic looking guy. Looks like he's never had a problem in his life, but he's gonna tell us a little bit more about the journey, and as all of us, we've had to overcome some challenges to get to where we are, and then we're going to get into how Rudi, what he does, and how he's going to help people that like you, the Gonzo family, help bring you to your next level of potential, which I feel is all of our God-given talent. I feel like we, are challenged to use our gifts and to bring our potential to the highest level that we possibly can. I believe that's our challenge in life. And that is right what Rudi gets at helping you discover your gifts and your innate talents and maximizing them. So when you get up to heaven and you say, oh my God, I'm the person that I was supposed to be. That's great. That's fantastic. So again, Rudi, welcome to the show. And then also Gonzo family, as I always say, we're going to leave this show. We're going to leave this interview with some nuggets, some tangible takeaways that you can say, oh my God, thanks, Rudi. Thanks, Dave. I can implement these strategies into my business like right now. And of course, if you want to talk to Rudi, he'd be happy to talk to you after the show as well. I could connect you. So, but Rudi, enough of me talking. I want to hear about you. Tell us about little Rudi, and with that accent, I know the answer to this, but I'm sensing you're not from the U.S. and you're from some different places. And so, tell us about your journey as a child and how it led you to what you're doing today, please.
Well, David, I'm going to tell you my story. First, I'm going to just touch on something that you said, and that we all get to use our talents and our skills to be able to impact people. And I believe we ourselves are the gift. We are a gift. And when we show up, everything that we've ever experienced in life is added to the collective of what we get to do next. And so all the traumas that every single person on the planet has ever had, because my story is no different than anybody else's, we've all had them. They compound and compound and compound. And then one day we get to do something with all of that information. And so I'm originally from South Africa, live in the US now. And my story was quite a beautiful one, but I did have what we call little T traumas that compounded over a really long time. And some people have one major event that happens in life that creates a shift and gives them a new perspective. Some people have lots of little ones. For me, it was a lot of little ones that became a really big T trauma. But I'm really grateful for them. And as you hear my story today, I speak to your Gonzo family. I challenge you to think about your stories. What did you learn? And that if there were value in that lesson, which there is, what could you do with that information? How could you potentially share that information? How could you help use that to either give you a new vantage point, which it has, but more than that, how could you use that vantage point to save somebody from going through something similar, or by sharing your story, giving somebody hope, or by coming up with a new way of doing something or approaching something so that you can ease other people's pain? Because life is truly about what we do with what has happened to us. All of it is serving who we get to become. And so I'm going to tell you my story in 3 parts. I'm going to start when I was 16 years old. 16 years old, a teacher called an assembly. All the kids walked into the assembly hall. We sat down, and a man walked up on stage. I still remember, blue shirt, a blue suit, white shirt. He walked in, took the microphone, and he just captivated the entire gymnasium. All these little kids sitting there as he was motivating us, inspiring us, and telling us we could have and be and do anything. And I remember that moment because that was the moment that God touched me on the shoulder and said, Rudi, this is what you're going to do with the rest of your life, brother. And I sat there as if he and I were the only 2 people sitting in that room at that time. And I knew that this was my destiny. The sad thing is, it took me almost 20 years to actually start doing it. Most people that I work with, they don't know what they want to do. They don't know what their passion is, their desire is. They're still looking for their purpose. And they can be in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. I knew mine at that age, but I didn't believe in myself enough to actually start taking those steps and impacting and empowering people until I was in my late 30s and early 40s. And so to save people the time of wasting 10, 15, 20 years to be able to do something that you've been put on this earth to do and to create an impact, because I often think about, man, if I'd done that earlier, how many more lives could I have touched? How many more people could I have helped? How much more fulfilled would I have felt? What would the quality of my life look like today if I had been me, fully organically me from such a young age? And not gone through that struggle. But again, as I speak into, always there's value in the struggle because now I get to help people move through theirs. So let's go back to why it took me 20 years. 20 more years from when I found out what it is that I was put to do, able to get to do it. And that's because I didn't believe I was good enough. I didn't believe I was worthy. I didn't think anybody would listen to me. I didn't think I had a good or compelling enough story that if I stood up somewhere and said, you can have and be and do anything, people would turn around and say, who the hell are you? And why am I even bothering to listen to you? So I believed I needed to create wealth. I needed to create money. I needed to create an empire. I needed to have businesses, fancy cars. And if I then amassed abundance, well, people would then look at me with respect and say, well, of course we are going to listen to him because look at what he's achieved. And so to really grasp the concept of the story that I want you to take away from today, I have to take you back to when I was 6 years old. At 6 years old, I walked into school for the very first time. And the teacher, when she was calling us into the classroom, she had us walk in a single file line. And as we were walking in, she recognized me. And when she recognized me in that moment, I felt relief because I was really nervous walking into that classroom. It was my first day of real big school. We were in uniforms, very military styled school system in South Africa at the time. And so as I walked in, she saw me and I felt instant relief, like, oh, thank God, she knows me or my family, everything's going to be okay. And then she said to me, are you Carl's brother? And I said, yes, I am. I'm Carl's brother. And she said, well, you might as well go and sit on that chair over there. That's the dunce's chair. That's where we put the stupid kids. And you're probably going to spend the whole year there if you're anything like your brother. And I, in that moment, sat in that classroom on this elevated chair. It was like a bar stool. And I sat on this bar stool with the dunce's hat and all the other kids looking at me. And it was the first time in my life that I can remember having a visual to accompany the internal dialogue that was happening in my mind. Rudi, you are not enough. Rudi, you're not good enough. Rudi, you're unworthy. Rudi, you're stupid. Rudi, you're not smart. And then I got to see the reflection of the kids' faces staring back at me as the stupid kid. Now, in reality, I didn't spend the whole year there, and many kids sat on that bench, but that image in my mind of me being forced to sit on that chair, all these kids looking at me like I wasn't good enough, that created a big enough rift in my mind to say that, hey, Rudi's not good enough. And what I do today is understand human behavior, understand brain patterns. You spoke about, doing something for 10,000 hours. Well, I have mastered mindset. It's what I've done for over 20 years now. And when you look at the brain patterns of a child at the age of 6 and 7, they receive all information as fact, as instruction. And so at 6 years old, I was instructed, Rudi, you're stupid. Rudi, you're a dunce. Rudi, you're different than everybody else. So when I walked out of that classroom, I started to look for evidence, because that's what the brain does. It looks for evidence to reinforce what you believe to be true. And I believed I was stupid. So I looked at all the kids being picked up in fancier cars than ours, or going home to bigger houses than ours. And I constantly showed up in life believing I wasn't good enough. And so, David, people say, what was your school, life like? And I never showed up for school. I physically walked into the school, but I didn't actually do the homework. I didn't study. I didn't care. I was a joker. I was a clown. I was always very theatrical. I was acting. I was putting on, voices and trying to be the cool kid, because I was desperately yearning to fit in. But what I didn't realize was I was already enough. I just acted like I wasn't, and people didn't enjoy my company, or people didn't want to hang out with me because I was being this fake version of me. And so it was a really difficult childhood. And when I mentioned in the beginning, these are small traumas that compound over an extended period of time, I one day eventually realized, wow, I've been doing all the wrong things for all the wrong reasons. And at some point in time, I had to start stacking evidence that I was in fact enough. In my early 20s, I created a tremendous amount of wealth. I created a lot of assets. I had a lot of businesses. I was doing really well. And at one point in time, I sat down and had to take stock and say, hang on a minute, if I am a dunce, if I am stupid, if I'm not enough, but I managed to achieve all of these things, maybe there is something in me that is good enough, is worthy. So I elevated relationships. I elevated my business. I elevated my business partnerships. And all these things began to shift and change as I increased my worth. And then I started working with people and individuals, and then eventually companies. And so today I've stacked so much evidence of me being wicked smart, me being funny, me being charismatic, me being liked and making a difference and an impact. But I also have the ability now to resonate with people across it, say like, hey, I totally get where you're at and why you feel that way, or why your company is this way, because I ran companies the wrong way, or I dated the wrong people, or I used to, negatively self-abuse myself through, internal dialogue saying I'm not good enough, or that doesn't fit right, or I don't grow muscle, or I'm too short, or I'm too hairy, or I'm too whatevers. And so today I get to change that dialogue within myself, which obviously helps me change the outer dialogue that I get to have with other people. So I know that was a lot, but we have a short amount of time, and I'm really hoping people can get to resonate with a little bit of that story, because it applies to what is happening in their life as they listen to, hang on, I also had a similar situation or a story. And so the whole point is, I chose to believe something that wasn't true, and it governed every single decision that I ever made until I started to question my decisions.
Wow. A lot of meat there. A lot of meat to discuss. So I don't think people realize the power of comments, at any age, let alone from an adult to a 6-year-old, right? I mean, that totally reframed everything you thought about yourself with 1 or 2 sentences for a long, long time. And you're still talking about it. How old are you today, if you don't mind me asking?
I am 44.
You're 44, right? So 38 years later, you're still talking about it. That woman, you should look her up and thank her, right? for the journey that she caused that helped make you so successful today, right? But so it's just unbelievable that how we can perceive truth from what somebody is saying, whether it's true or not, right? And And so for me, I have to say, like, I want to be really intentional and instigative about what comes out of my mouth when I'm talking to other people, because I may inadvertently make people feel, like not worthy enough. And for me, I usually don't do that, but I'm just thinking for anybody, like, how can you use your words to make somebody feel better about themselves after the interaction, right? And so that is really powerful. I remember, so I was growing up, I was that hyper yet lovable ADHD kid. I was always getting in trouble because I was so hyper, but I wasn't like mean or mischievous. So I was that kid in school where the teacher's like, "Oh, David Mamano," the eye roll, like, love him, but it drives me nuts, right? So this is in high school, junior year, and I did something stupid, and I was in the in-school suspension room all day long. Call it the blue room because all the walls were blue, right? And so instead of being like suspended, kicked out of school for the day, it was in-school suspension. And I remember the vice principal, Dick Lenio, was giving a tour to a new family that had just moved to town, right? The parents and the kid, showing them around the school. And they came in the room. This is our suspension room. This is where when you do something bad, you're here for at least one day, if not more. And I'm like cowering because I'm in the room as he's, and then he goes, "And this is David Mamano." And I'm like, "Oh no," And he goes, "You wouldn't know it right now because he's in this in-school suspension room, but he's going to be a future millionaire someday." And I was like, here am I, how many years later, talking about that. And I'm like, here am I, like in trouble for the whole day, quote unquote, being a bad kid. Yet he chose to say that I'm going to be a future millionaire. So I was thinking to myself, wow, he really sees something in me. He sees something in this bad kid that ultimately is going to turn into something good. And it always stuck with me. And I saw him years later, like in the grocery store, and I reminded him of that comment. He goes, "I remember saying that. I believed it." So that was a comment that was actually good for me, right? I was, so now my next question, Rudi, for you is, what would you change about the journey? Do you wish you never said that?
So, I'm going to acknowledge your teacher here for a moment, and then I'm going to use that as an opportunity to empower your listeners to do that for somebody today. And, we talk about the power of words. I'm going to answer your question by saying, I don't want to take anything back. I've done some really, really stupid stuff in my life, really, really stupid stuff. And I think all of them have added to the collective of who we've become. I made some stupid decisions because I thought I was stupid. I showed up for my final exams at high school without even opening a book because that's sticking it to the man, but except it was sticking it to me, to everything of who I've become. And I am successful today, but I'm successful because I understand the definition of success. And that is happiness. That's fulfillment. That's waking up feeling the most empowered version of me. That's impacting people's lives every day in every way. And when I work with people, it's mostly high-level executives, CEOs, C-suites, or the entire organization by shifting the culture to do exactly what this teacher did for you. And that is to see people, to celebrate people, and to empower them. That one comment that was made to you in that moment was so beautifully and divinely led, because here you are at your lowest of lows, right? You're in detention for the whole day. I can't think of anything more painful as a child, especially an active, overactive child, as you described yourself. And now you're being confined to a room, a blue room at that. And then a teacher walks in and says, this guy, look at him. He's going to be a millionaire one day. And something inside you shifts and says, hang on, you know what? There's possibility. What happened was somebody saw you, somebody recognized you, somebody saw something inside of you, and it ignited what was already there, but something else that you either weren't paying attention to or something that you'd been suppressing. And so now purpose starts to flow, opportunity starts to flow, creativity starts to flow. And in reality, what really happened was the brain left fear, fight, or flight. The left and the right brain created coherence again. And all of a sudden, you start to think logically, you start to think rationally, your creativity comes in, and you become the most empowered version of you. And that's when you start to change how you are showing up in a room. I had to do that for myself at 25 years old. I literally had to sit there with a pen and paper and stack evidence that, hang on, maybe I can be worthy. Maybe I am good enough. Somebody gave you that opportunity, and that was a breadcrumb. You still had to take the choice and the active choice to believe it and then to reapply that principle over and over. And that's why you're so hugely successful today. But what I want to do is ask your audience to think about every single person they come into contact with today. If you run a company, you run a department, you work in an organization, you have the power to positively impact the people in that room. You have the power to say something kind by seeing somebody, acknowledging that person, recognizing something within them. And when you do that, you create a connection with them. When you create that connection with them, you actually inspire them. You shift something in them that says, hang on, you know what? I like that. I want more of that. I also want to be seen. I want to see someone. I want to be able to do the same that happened to me for someone else. And it creates this beautiful snowball effect. And I'm not talking about CEOs walking into companies and just complimenting everybody as they walk down the hallway, but truly recognizing something in somebody and calling it forward and then empowering them to use that in the workplace. That changes how people show up. You know, I tell this story a lot. I mean, if I got a penny for every time I told this, you know, I would be one of the richest people on the planet. But I think it's such a good lesson. When I go to a grocery store, I'll often ask the cashier, what is your favorite chocolate? You know, I'm feeling really inspired to eat something, but I just don't know what it is. And I need some inspiration. And then they'll say, oh, I like a Mars bar or whatever the chocolate bar is. And then I'll buy one. Sometimes I'll buy two. And then as I'm leaving and they've, you know, bagged everything, I'll take the bar out and give one to the cashier, and I'll give one to the bagger, and I'll say, thank you so much for what you do. I truly and greatly appreciate you.
I
But let me
love
tell
that.
you,
I'm stealing that. I'm stealing that.
I mean, I hope everybody does. You know,
I
it
love
costs
that.
a day.
Yeah. That's, you're a beautiful person. You're a beautiful person. I love that. My son is a cashier at Wegmans, a big grocery chain up here in the Northeast, and I'm gonna see if anybody ever does that for him. But I'm gonna do that for others. I love that idea. I love that idea. Thank you. You know, I love what you're saying. Agree with it completely. I agree with it. So, man, and it's something so simple, right? But it's like, when it's, once again, we just have to do it, right? You know, so I was texting with a friend yesterday, and she's feeling a little bit down. And I started talking about some of the great things that she's been doing lately. And she responded with a text that said, thank you for making me feel important. I was like, oh my God. I was like, well, I said that because you are important. But, you know, she needed it. She needed to hear some of those things. She needed to feel important again. And I think the benefit of what you're saying is, not only did I make her feel special, important, valued, but selfishly, maybe, when she responded with that comment, thank you for making me feel important, I felt wonderful. I felt wonderful that I did that for her. To be honest with you, I wasn't even trying to. I'm thinking to myself, well, she's done great things. She's got to know it. And it was just it was a sweet moment for me, you know, to have her say something poignant like that, you know?
So I said something in the very beginning of the conversation today, and I'm going to go back to it and expand on a little bit, right? I said I'm one of the most successful people I know because I understand the meaning of true success. Success isn't dollars, it's not assets, it's fulfillment. And fulfillment only comes, long-lasting fulfillment comes when you give selflessly of yourself every day in every single way. I teach that to all my clients. Regardless of where you are in an organization, where you are in life, what you're doing, you have the power to impact people's lives positively. You can still fully function. You can run a company. You can be the leader that you need to be, but you can do it with kindness and compassion. And when you do that, and when you see people's lives shifting and changing around you, that gives you more reward and more fulfillment than any dollar value. You know, I've chased the latest car, the latest phone, the biggest house, the whatever. And those things never make you feel like you've achieved anything. You know, my brother and I would always joke every time we achieved a new accolade in life, we'd put our arms around each other and we'd look at each other and we'd giggle and we'd be like, I've arrived. You know, or he would say, have you arrived? And I'd be like, I've arrived. But you know what, that I've arrived lasted as long as the words left my lips. And then I'd be thinking, you know, something's missing. What else do I want? What else could I do?
What's next? What's next? Right. Yeah.
But in that conversation that you had with your friend yesterday, and she's lucky to have you, you empowered her, and in turn, that filled your cup. And it's because you're doing what we're meant to be doing here, and that's impacting people.
Yep. Yep. We're brothers from another mother, my friend. I love it. I love it. And a lot of things you're saying too, like you said, it took you 20 years to finally kind of come to grips with your gifts and use them. And it's very serendipitous in the fact that I just recently launched a new coaching program called Never Too Late, and it's about helping people realize that it's never too late to follow that dream, whether it's a career dream, a relationship dream, an adventure dream, right? Whatever dream you're having, it's never too late. Whether some people think they're 35 and it's too late, right? Like, oh, I thought I would have done this by now. It's too late now. I'm married. I got a mortgage. It's too late. I'm 35, which I have to chuckle being 53. I'm like, it's not too late. But, 45, 55, 65, 70 plus. I just watched a TEDx talk of this woman who is 81. Well, I think she's 88 now, but when she was 81, she got the record for the oldest skydiver. She started skydiving at age 53, and at 81, she got the record for the most skydives for someone her age. So it's never too late, right, to become that person that you dreamed of being. And so the fact that you said 20 years before you started using your gifts is truly amazing to me. So thank you for sharing that. Want to go back to part 2 of my question. What would you change? Do you wish your teacher never said that horrible comment to you?
So I wouldn't change anything. The comment was a defining moment for me in my life. And how I chose to react to that was defining. And how I showed up every day for another, 10 years after that in school, well, that was defining. Then when I decided I was going to start taking corrective steps to change my life and to start empowering myself as opposed to looking for external things to empower me, well, that was a journey in itself. And every one of them added to who I have become today. People ask me about my childhood, and I tell that story a lot because I think people can resonate with it. I don't talk about sexual abuse, which is also an experience that I had. I don't talk about having a gun put to my head and being told to sit down on my hands and knees and close my eyes and thinking that's the last thing I was ever going to see was the barrel of the gun. Those are all different stories that make up my life experience. And you said something truly profound earlier that, if I could, I should look that teacher up, or I should look up the gunman or the robber, or I should, my female cousin that molested me as a child. All these things that happened, I do thank every one of them. I thank them all the time. I dated a girl that cheated on me, and it was the most heartbreaking experience of my life to love someone so deeply and then have her completely stand on my heart with high heels, not literally, figuratively, and break me open. All of them, I thank them. I'm grateful for them because I have a completely different set of skills today because of that. I know how to love. I know how to love myself. I know how to be a better person. I know all of what life has to offer because of those things. And everything is added. I continue to repeat that. Everything is added to who I get to be. Very rarely in my life, I have a thriving coaching business. So I work with individuals, this, coaches. I work with people aspiring to be coaches. I work with corporations. I shift cultures. I have a vast business, and I can connect to almost any person anywhere in where they are in life because of all of the different experiences that I've had. And I can see through my lens, through my experience of how I self-sabotaged for over 20 years in love, in business, in relationship, in coaching, in starting my business, in all these areas, because I didn't believe I was good enough, even with money in the bank, with businesses around me, with all these things that tell you should be enough. I still felt like that 6-year-old boy sitting on a dunce's chair until I started to restack the evidence of who I am. So when I go into a company, I can immediately tell you what is going on in the company, what's wrong, because you only have to spend a few minutes there to be able to see the shifts and the changes of what's happening inside of somebody's business to identify where the blocks are coming from. And then when you create those subtle shifts, it's like opening up a river and people begin to flow, and they flow in a unified direction towards a common goal that drives tremendous results and changes. And very rarely do I go into a business or into a person's coaching practice or in an author's book and touch the content or touch the product. I don't have to change product. I don't have to change packaging or marketing. I have to change how the people show up when they're about to do what it is that they're going to do. And when you can empower somebody, everything is going to be different because the end result is going to be different. And so, no, I don't change any of it. Every single one of those experiences have made me the most powerful, beautiful, benevolent version of me that I can be. And it's made me highly effective.
I feel like doing the I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. The beautiful, beautiful story and perspective. A lot of people will hold on to those negative experiences and become the victim of those experiences and have them. It's like an anchor to their life, right? They're not allowed to become their full potential because they're holding on like that woman that broke your heart. You know, that could have held you back from ever getting in a beautiful relationship again. And I know now that you're very much in love and you have a wonderful wife. But if you were still holding on to, well, I'm not gonna let myself fall in love again because I'm just gonna get my heart stomped on by stilettos, you wouldn't have allowed yourself to fall in love with another woman again and be so happily married, right? So great lessons there, Rudi. Truly appreciate you sharing your journey and being so vulnerable with everything. You've got quite the journey, the highs and lows, and it's a great testament that you can have a lot of crazy things happen to you, like you just mentioned, yet use those as a springboard to your success instead of quicksand. So thank you for that. And it's all, I think it starts with us being vulnerable, talking about it, right? And, you know, not your fault. It's not your fault that you were molested. It's not your fault that you got dumped. It's not your fault that that teacher said that bad stuff to you, but using it as a tool for your success instead of an anchor. So thank you for that. Great stories. Rudi, if people, the Gonzo family, if they want to learn more about you, get in touch with you, talk to you. I know that you happy to talk to people. I believe you do like a free consultation, et cetera, whether they own a company or just personally. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
So my website is rudirikstins.com. I'm going to offer them to you to put into the show notes. It's RudiRiekstins.com. You could find me on Instagram at the same handle, or you could go to my sister company, which is In Power University, and you'll be able to reach me through any one of those platforms. Obviously, at RudiRiekstins.com, you have access to schedule onto my calendar. If you're looking for an introductory call, we'll be able to spend 15 to 30 minutes just going through high level what it is that you're looking for and to see whether you are in alignment with what it is that I can do and to be able to impact you. But I encourage that if there is something that is coming up for you personally, professionally, whether your business itself is having some struggles, to seek out somebody. It doesn't necessarily have to be me, but I highly recommend you connect with somebody, because what happens when you work with somebody like me is you're bringing somebody into your life or into your business or into both that is not emotionally invested in you. And what I mean by that is they're not emotionally invested into your story. And so I can be compassionately connected to you. I can be excited about what your business is doing or what you're doing in your life, but I'm not telling the story you've been telling. You used a word a moment ago called victim, right? We look at life as things are happening to us and we feel victimized. Well, I look at life like I'm empowered, constantly empowered. When something happens, I always ask the question, well, if this is happening to me, how is this serving me? Because in hindsight, yes, you know, a girl broke my heart and she cheated on me. Well, it taught me how to be a better person. I take 100% accountability for what I did wrong in that relationship. I didn't cheat. I didn't send her to somebody else's house, but I wasn't the best boyfriend. Otherwise, that would never have happened. And so now I'm in a committed relationship and I communicate better. And I've had a beautiful 11-year relationship and that's still blossoming. And we've never, ever had a fight because I refuse to fight. I refuse to have an argument. Instead, we have beautiful, beautiful, vulnerable conversations. And so when you can take that vantage point into any area of your life, you can completely transform how you are showing up in life. And to go to someone that is not in the story, they can look at you and say, well, you're playing a loop here. You're being a victim, or, you know, you're making this decision and you're doing it again and again. And it's truly driving the same result, and to change the result, you've got to change what you're doing to get something different, and they can give you perspective. And so that's really where I get to come in and do what it is that I do, is to help people see things that they otherwise wouldn't see because they're so deeply caught in what it is that they're doing or experiencing. So I highly recommend you reach out either to myself or somebody like me.
No, definitely you. I'm going to give you a plug. And to make it easy, if anybody wants a personal introduction to Rudi, throw me an email, david@davidmamano.com, and I will do a personal introduction. So, Rudi, thank you so much. First of all, I want to thank your parents for having you. I'm so glad you were born. You're making this world a better place, definitely standing out among the 8 billion people in this world, or whatever the number is. So thank you for that. Thank you for sharing for some time and heartbeats with us today. Very much appreciate that too. And I continue to wish you massive continued success with all the incredible work that you're doing.
I could say the same for you, David. Much love to you, brother. I appreciate you. I value you, and keep doing what you're doing, because you're changing lives just by being you in the same moment and giving me an opportunity to do the same. So I honor you and I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Excellent. Total fist pump and a hug through Zoom here. So thank you, Rudi. Appreciate it. I also want to thank the Gonzo family for listening and or watching to another episode of the Gonzo Experience. Really, these type of episodes really just inspire me to podcast for the rest of my life. So thank you for the great interview. Thank you for watching and listening again, Gonzo family. Make sure to have a great rest of the day. Empower yourself to be the best that you can be. And don't forget to stay awesome.